So let's go over to the progress notes, which is kind of like the heart of our program, because once you've completed the progress note, you pretty much have everything other than your medications done for the day. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Just jump down to progress note. We're going to add a progress note for our client, for the resident, and the resident that we're going to use here is John Doe. All right, so let's choose John Doe from the list. Okay, John Doe's information appears now. You see, some defaults here. By default, we show today's date. You can put an optional title, and this will allow you to enter additional information related to, just a way to quickly find the note when you're searching. You can put in additional information here. You see you have a general template. We do have what we call custom progress notes templates, so you can define templates for your agency. Let's say, for instance, if it's a progress note, but it was a counseling session and you want certain things to be completed, you've defined this session, and so all of that information is populated, and your staff will know that they need to, fill in these blanks, fill in the blanks here. Let's just go back to general for now, and let's say, John had a great day, or maybe let's say he had a good day. It wasn't great. All right. Now, John had a good day. So were the goals met or not? So if you simply select not applicable, because this is required, so there are two fields that are required. You need to put in some sort of note, and you need to just say were the goals met or not. And this is because even if agencies do not want to track on a granular level, we do want to at least track, what's happening with the resident. Are they moving in the right direction? And of course, if it's not applicable, you can simply select not applicable. Now, that is all that's required to do a progress notes. You can click submit. However, as you see here, we have a lot of options. So let's drill into them a bit. All right. So first off, let's say the goals were partially met. Now, what happens is that the actual goals of John's goals now open up, and then we can actually track them on a more granular level. Okay. One of John's goals is that John will spend his entire 6 hours at the day program without attempting to AWOL. All right. So let's say, for instance, that was partially done. Okay. Now, we can also enter a note, would say, John was good in the afternoon after we went for a walk in the morning. And if you had action steps, if you've defined action steps for this goal, maybe things that your staff's supposed to do, or making sure they're checking these things, you can also check that, and you can fill in the additional information related to those action steps as well. Okay, John will use appropriate words and calm. He's angry. Let's say he was good with that. He had no problems eating his meal, and we'll just click on a few of these. Maybe get outdoors. Now, we know he definitely went outside. We'll go to class. We say, all right, great, and he. Maybe that one's not applicable. You can also see the goal description. Again, you can always just type in a goal note with any of these. Now, did the resident see a doctor or other provider today? Well, if we say no to all of these, we simply click submit and we're done. But let's dig into them so you can see what the options are. Let's say we did see a doctor or provider. You can see here the list of providers you've defined, and also you can add a new provider. Oh, and by the way, I didn't show you that. You can add a new goal real time while you're working on this as well when you're adding goals. And you can also archive the goals that are no longer relevant. And again, only if you have access to archive and add goals will you have the ability to remove these. So if your staff, if you don't allow your general staff to add goals, then they won't see the option to add goals, and they won't see the option to remove the goals. So you can add a new doctor, but let's just look at the doctors that we currently have. Let's see here, we have Dr. Joe. Let's say we saw the cardiologist today, okay? And let's say there was a 12 o'clock p.m. And let's add it to John's calendar. Did we observe a behavior today? All right, let's say yes. All right, well, we know John attempted to AWOL. We said, let's see, he had one episode of AWOL, and the severity was mild. Nothing major happened. There was no violence or any sort of physical information. And what intervention did we use to prevent this or to combat this going forward? We went for a walk, and it was successful. So as you can imagine, we're tracking this information. So we'll be able to, after you've tracked all of these behaviors and what interventions are being used, and if they're successful or not, you'll be able to see which interventions your staff thinks are more successful than others. And you can add a new intervention real time and select whether it's successful or unsuccessful. So then the next time your staff comes in, they'll see that new intervention. Just imagine if you have new staff that have, they're just starting to work with this resident, they come in and they choose the behavior and they say, oh wow, these are a number of interventions here that our staff have used in the past. They can talk to the staff and they will understand more about the resident by looking and seeing the intervention. So we really like that feature. It's a pretty cool feature. You can archive any of these behaviors if you're not using them anymore real time. All right, let's say John also had, we can just choose another one here. Let's say depression, and we didn't use an intervention there. And let's go down to tasks. So we've defined a number of tasks that John is supposed to complete during the day. Again, if you don't, you simply click no, but let's say yes, all right? We know that John's supposed to comb his own hair, and he did that with no assistance. Control his temper, maybe it was partial assistance. Full assistance was required to develop his goals. And let's say none of these other tasks were really relevant today, so we'll skip through them. Okay, now we jump into service log or billing information. If we click yes, we'll see this information. Now, because we haven't defined a service and billing log information for John, we don't see that. What I'll do is I'll save this task and I'll make some modifications. So I'll add a billing code for John so you can see how that you would track that. But normally you'd put the start time, end time. We would calculate the hours. You can enter mileage, and the service billing information would display here, and you can also put in location. All right. If you track weekly care score information, you can also do that. You can track the amount of hours. Let's say, for instance, you're supposed to give basic service for an hour today. You can track how much was done. Maybe if it was eating service, whatever it is, you can see that. And then, did you have a specific activity? So if you've defined activities for your resident, then we can add to those activities. So if I click here and we say, okay, the date of activity, again, today, and we're going to choose the activity. We're going to say they're supposed to go to the beach, and we can even say if it was denied or not. We can put in the total hours, and then we'll go ahead and add this, so we can even add it to their calendar as well. Okay. So now we have that. And we'll go ahead and scroll down to this section. So here we have, this is if there's a change in condition. So this change in condition is if a major change has happened. Let's say, for instance, major change to the medications, major changes to maybe the housing, family situation, etc. You can just make a milestone. You can just enter this information. It'll be a milestone, something that you can come back to and know that there was modification here for this resident. You can also select urgent notifications, and if you've entered urgent notifications in the edit agency, they will show up here by default. But you can also just override that and just put in some other email, and you can put a comma separated list of emails as well, and it will send this progress notes. Once you click submit, it will send a copy of it to them. All right, so let's uncheck that, and let's go ahead and add this progress note. All right, so one thing here I want to jump back to, because I think it's important for us to add that. So what we want to do is go to the resident John, and we want to add some billing information to his page so that we can see how we would track the billing. Okay, so resident billing. So let's go ahead and add, and let's say service code 1, and I'll just put authorization code number 3456. And let's say the rate is 60, and the number of units, let's say it's 100, and we'll say the start date is, let's just say the 1st of October, and we'll say the end date, let's say it's a year, okay? Oops, didn't choose. Okay, so now we've added that, and let's go ahead and submit this. All right, I'm going to jump back over the progress notes. So now I'm back on I'm going to go ahead and add another progress note here. All right, so now we have John Doe's information, and what I want to do is go down to the service log and for that to load up. And now you see you have a billing authorization. It shows you the code as well as the authorization code, and so you can enter information based on that. All right, so let's go back home. We've added some progress notes, so let's take a look and see what happens. So instead of me adding a progress notes, instead of clicking the plus, let's click the view edit so we can see the progress notes. So now at the top of the progress notes section, there are a number of filtering options where you can say, okay, you know what, I only want to see the progress notes from a specific staff or for a specific resident. Let's say, for instance, I only want to see John Doe's information. And maybe I only want to see it from the beginning of October as well. Now, before I hit submit, notice it shows the last 90 days of progress notes by default. But what we're going to do is just click submit, and we're now only going to see the ones from October 1st. All right? So now we see a list of the progress notes, and we see there are a number of them here. We can email them, print them, or print them with page breaks. So email is pretty straightforward. You click the email button, you put in an email address, and you can also put in a message. Let's just go ahead and click print. So what this is do, it will pull all these progress notes together. Your company logo will be there, your information, the progress notes. If you add it, we chose to show the signature line, so the signature line is there, but the staff hasn't added their signature, and that's why it's not displaying. So you can see all of these notes. If we decided to print this with page breaks, because let's say, for instance, we wanted to put each of these in a separate record, or maybe we were doing multiple residents and we don't want to put the same residents in the same record, we can just simply click print with page breaks, and what will happen is that it will print these forms, but each of them will start on a new page. So all of these would start on a new page, and all this information will be printed separately. All right, so that gives you some options there as far as printing the progress notes. All right, so let's just go back home,